So
Yeah.
tell me some of the things that you wrote about in the book or that you learned about in this conference that you didn't know about.
Yeah. Well, by the way, you just said a whole lot. If this book is successful, um, it cools down the conversation without watering it down. It gives us a language and a space to talk about things and bring our own perspectives to them. So let me just talk about a couple of things I didn't know that I discovered. I did not realize how the companies I compete against every day got started. And so these companies got single source contracts to do work. And it wasn't seen as a set aside or a giveaway. It's just what you did back then. Um, what if you fast forward 80 years, 90 years, you have a competitive advantage that's hard to close the gap on.
Mm.
I did not realize the implication of 20 generations, 17 generations of enslaved people, um, uh, overtly and legalized racial activity, suppression of neighborhoods. I didn't realize the accumulative effect on home ownership, income, wealth, health. I didn't really step back far enough away from it to realize how much that creates a dynamic that's hard to close. That's
Mm-hmm.
just I use the monopoly analogy in the book where, this professor in North Carolina allowed she had 9 students and she allowed the first 3 to start the monopoly game at the beginning. And you might say monopoly is an equality game, so equality versus equity. It is the equality game. You all start the same amount of money. You get $200 and you pass go. You roll the dice, so there's a little bit of luck or chance to it, but and a little bit of skill and daring. But she let the first 3 start the game, and then 45 minutes later, she let the second group start. Well, what did the second group find? They found that the first group had already bought up land. They had already accumulated $200 every time they passed go, but there was probably still some opportunity for group 2. But then when she let the third group start, an hour and a half after the game started, all the properties purchased. They don't just have houses on it, they put those red hotels on it now. And so it's really a blocked up thing. And instead of opportunity when you land on a property, you have an opportunity to pay rent, because that's what happens when you land on someone's property, instead of the opportunity to buy. That's kind of how our nation was built intentionally. And so people say, well, it's equality now. Well, I would argue we're not quite there yet. But even if you argue we are, it's equality after you've had 2 or 3 rounds of playing Monopoly.